Hey, what's going on YouTube? DJ with Sound Life Design here. Very excited to bring you all into my first AV tutorial where I will be talking about signal flow, and we're going to be looking at Q-SYS to do that. My main goal for these series is a few things. Firstly, I am trying to spread awareness to all my audio people out there. There's an industry that exists that will give you your nights and weekends back called commercial AV integration. Many of you probably know this, but those who don't, I didn't know when I left college and was in the live AV sphere that this industry even existed. So it gives, I think a much better work-life balance if you're a little later in life. You've been grinding the touring scene or the Broadway scene for a long time, and you're ready for a little more balance in your life. It's not a bad option. So we're going to be getting our feet wet, starting off in Q-SYS. We're going to look at a bunch of different manufacturers. I'm going to do a bi-amp tutorial. We're going to get into some conferencing applications because that's probably the area that you haven't explored the most and can be the most tricky with acoustic echo cancellation and things like that. For today, we're going to go basic signal flow and kind of build up more complex signal flow from there. So without further ado, we're going to hop over into Q-SYS. So as you can see, this is the latest version of Q-SYS Designer 10.3. I highly recommend you go create an account on their site. I believe that's free. Lots of free trainings. You're probably asking like, well, if there's free training on there, what am I doing here? And I'm really just trying to give a real world perspective from someone who deploys these systems, troubleshoots these systems in the field, so you don't hear it direct from the manufacturer. I'm going to try to tell it like it is. I'll be nice. But yeah, we're going to go in over all the little ins and outs and have some fun with it. So right now we're in the, this is just my signal flow tutorial. I've got the 10.3 opened up. When you first open, they're going to drop in a device called a Core 8 Flex. That's one of their smaller DSP units. I encourage you to go familiarize yourself with the product line. There's the Core 110F, Core 24s, and then they go all the way up to, Dell server-based, Core 610s. With lots of AEC, huge amounts of processing for campus-wide deployments, things like that. But for now, we're going to drop in a small Core 8 Flex and get rolling. So over on the left side here, I've got my inventory, which is going to show all the devices in my network. If I click this plus icon, we can add anything from QLAN devices, and QLAN is their proprietary audio network. It also connects all their video devices, video endpoints, amplifiers. It's a really nice architecture. Things work really well inside of it. So you've got, other just things outside, little Dante plates. We deal with these at Tarotech Dante XLR plates. So we'll be going more into Dante, pretty heavily. If I pick QLAN amplifiers, these are all Q-SYS branded amplifiers that integrate really nicely. Tons of power, tons of channels, can do a lot with it. Loudspeakers. So we're actually going to have to connect a couple of these to our amps to actually get audio out. It's a little counterintuitive when you first look at it, but we will look at that as well. performance loudspeakers, cinema loudspeakers, custom loudspeakers, cameras. We got an I/O USB bridges that are going to allow us to interface laptops for USB conferencing, super important in these conferencing spaces. Control, we've got GPIO unit. This is actually a newer unit that they or maybe I'm thinking of the low voltage. They might have the GPIO for a while. IR for controlling DVD players, low voltage relay unit for controlling motorized screens and any other things requiring a relay. You can get super in depth with this with control and user interfaces, and I rely on my programmers for a majority of the Lewis scripting and, crazy amounts. I can debug this stuff. I can get in and see where the problems lie. Programming that stuff from scratch, not my forte. I'm an audio guy first, so I let the experts handle that, and we're mainly going to be focusing on audio in this tutorial. And if you're an audio guy as well, a lot of these companies, they have their own programmers. You should, know as much as you need to get around. And I encourage you to go as deep as you want with that. It's, things I'm constantly learning. And then we go down here to streaming I/O, and that's where we're going to drop in our AS67 receivers, QLAN transmitter receivers if you need to send audio from core to core. And then software Dante. Built into the core is 8 channels of Dante in a software Dante receiver, and then you can purchase licenses to expand that out, and it's dependent on the core or processor that you have. Actually don't know. Okay, system link transmitter receiver. So AV and multicast streams from another system. That's actually something I never used, but is interesting. Media stream receivers I've used with a couple devices that I know support it. It has come in handy. And a soft phone. If you still have anybody out there with SIP or voice-based telephony. Luckily in our industry, I've seen a lot of people just go away from VoIP entirely. They're all doing USB style video conferencing because this can be a nightmare in the field. Trying to connect up phone systems when people don't know their credentials or don't know user accounts, it can get real tricky. So hopefully you don't have to deal with that, but we can, happy to do a tutorial on that later. So what we're going to do, did I accidentally add all these things? Lovely. Okay, cool. So first we can drop in a status block. This is just going to monitor the status of the core. You can take all these elements out and, put them, front facing so you can see. So any element in Q-SYS is draggable onto what's called the schematic. So what we're looking at right now in here is the schematic, and we're just going to call this, audio. Typically you'd have like an audio schematic, a control schematic, multiple rooms. You can have a schematic for each different room. However you want to lay it out. It is full open architecture, super flexible. And I just deleted these. Select all and delete. So let's just cover basic signal flow. I know that was a lot of introductory stuff. So I'm going to drag in my physical input on the core. So the core has 8 physical Phoenix block inputs. And then what we're going to do is basically we've got our whole input section. Sorry, I had to regroup there for a second. Let's just look at the most basic of basic signal flow. Okay, so every audio system, no matter how complex, follows the same path. Source, preamp, processing, amplifier, speaker. That's it. Everything else is just details. So you think about a singer on the stage. Their voice is the source. The The microphone picks it up, and the mic preamp in the console makes the signal loud enough to work with. That's the preamp. The mixing console is where you EQ it, you add reverb, control the levels. That's the processing. And then the power amp takes that process signal and gives it enough muscle to drive a speaker. That's the amplifier. And the speaker turns all that back into sound that you can hear in the room. And that's your output. Just to bridge that into commercial AV, in the commercial AV system, the source might be a laptop on a conference table, or a microphone in a ceiling, or a microphone on a table, and the preamp is built into the DSP. Now, just to give a visual, this is the DSP we're dealing with, so you can get eyes on the physical. This is a Q-SYS Core 8 Flex, and let's take a look at the back of the unit. So these flex channels are your analog inputs, and it's plus minus ground. These can be used as either inputs or outputs, which is why they're called flex, because it's flexible. And we'll show where to select that when we go into emulate mode. We've also got GPIO inputs if we need to do certain digital triggers with microphone LEDs, different logic for various things, or even something like bringing in a fire mute where it's just contact closure, and we need to say, hey, when the fire alarm goes off, the relay closes, and we can intercept that signal and tell the system to mute. Serial controls for display, or really any serial device. And then we have LAN A and LAN B. If you're using QLAN, all of your QLAN devices need to be on LAN A. That is Q-SYS's requirement. You can use Dante on LAN A, but it is preferable to separate out the network sometimes. So sometimes you might have Dante on LAN B, but you cannot have QLAN on LAN B. You always have to have it on LAN A. And, you might also use LAN B for your client's network so that they can monitor the system on their network, or do an iPad connection for their user interface, all different kinds of flexible stuff. But I just wanted to give a visual indication as to the physical unit that, that we're working with virtually inside Q-SYS here. So let's make that connection. Let's go ahead and add a amplifier. Add a QLAN amplifier. We'll do something small and easy. We'll do a 6x4. Now, when I click it, it puts it into the inventory here. You're going to want to organize your files so you can set locations over here. I'm just going to call it DJ conference room. So now it's created that DJ conference room over here on the left, and I can put everything inside of that. So take my core, put that into DJ's conference room. I'm going to take the I actually don't need all this stuff, so I'm just going to delete these. Okay, so we're just dealing with the amp and the core. So I'm going to take my amp output block and drop that here. Now, the simplest of signal flows would be, hey, I've got my microphone or whatever input, and I'm just going to go straight to the amp. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but it is possible. And then all you'd have to do is, we'll say, just a custom generic 70 volt speaker. We deal with a lot more 70 volt in conferencing spaces. It's a way to put a lot of speakers into a space, all daisy chained off of each other. So if I didn't just make that connection, this is not actually audio, it's data telling the amp what kind of speaker is connected. So when I go in here, it can actually tell me if there's a short on the line. It's very helpful information. But this, you will not get audio output if you do not attach some type of speaker onto this little data chain here. If we go into the amplifier block, all kinds of different controls, amp status, current, and you can pull all this stuff out for monitoring. Any block, any meter in here, you can pull out, any mute, anything you want to control with your client's user interface is fully controllable. It's really nice. Okay, so that's the simplest. And you notice I just drew a line here, but we can do tags. So on channel 1, we'll say this. We'll do, I'm going to save this for let's see, let's do a program left and program right. So when we typically say program audio, we're talking about any audio associated with a video source. What I'm going to do also is I'm going to add a Dante channel, which is very common. Streaming I/O. Where are you? Oh my God. Okay. Software Dante receiver. So I just clicked that and it added it right in here. I'm going to bring the status control in. So now there's some very common ceiling microphones in our space, one of which is a Shure MXA 910. There's also Sennheiser TCC2. There's all different manufacturers. So we're just going to say ceiling mic. Now you notice I just did one channel. These mics can typically support up to 8 lobes or 4 lobes. Sometimes they mix down to 1. It's been more common now to utilize the internal mixing inside of the microphone because it does a much better job than it used to. And it also saves you on your Dante channels and your DSP processing and everything else. You can fit a lot more. So we're just going to say that this is a mix. So ceiling mic mix. And then I could do ceiling mic mix. You would never do this because ceiling microphones typically do not get reinforced out of the amplifier. It can be, not recommended. There are ways to do it through what's called mix minus, and we'll get into all that later. It's a more advanced technique. So let's see here. I'm going to add a few things, one of which is a Acoustic Echo Cancellation. So right now you can see that has a channel count of 1. I don't even think that took that, right? Let's see. So I just copy pasted that tag and you can see it made it like round on the end, indicating that it's a complete tag versus this jagged edge one, showing that it is not connected to anything. And you can also color code these to whatever color you desire. So on this first pin, I'm going to connect the microphone. The second pin is the reference. So what we need to do is, if you're unfamiliar with AEC and the way it works, we'll go super basic. You have to send whatever audio that's coming out of the speakers in the room to the reference so that if someone's talking on the other end of the phone, that they don't hear themselves back. We'll go far deeper in later tutorials, but that's the basic idea. So that's the ceiling microphone. We'll say in addition to our program, that we have two, I don't know, analog, we'll say two wireless microphones, wireless 1 and wireless 2. And we'll pretend that we have a video matrix that is coming in on flex channels 3 and 4. So if we were looking at the back of this, you would have wireless 1 connected to channel 1, wireless 2 on channel 2, and then a video switcher with some analog audio outputs would be connected to 3 and 4. And then we are also going to add a USB for our conferencing block. So that's going to be a, oh, hang on. Where's the USB I/O? Oh, I/O bridge under video. So if we add this, nope. First we have to enable our audio bridge. So when you drop the I/O USB bridge, come over here, speakerphone 1x1 echo canceling. That's going to enable, basically when you plug this into a laptop or a computer, it will show up as an audio device on said computer. And we can now take this USB speakerphone, drop it into our schematic, and we will call this conference RX or conference receive. And then we'll take this, because this is going to be the audio coming in from the call, and this is the audio we're going to be sending out to the caller. So we're starting to get things situated here. It's getting a little more complex. Nothing at all crazy. But in order to like interface all this stuff, we're going to want to introduce a matrix mixer. And should have introduced this earlier. All your schematic elements are down here. So if you want to add text, if you want to add a header, if you want to add just a group box to organize things, that can all be done from here. So if I just want to like, you know, say these are my outputs and put some text. I would obviously clean this up a whole bunch. Oh, and then new feature in these later versions is dark mode, which you can find up here. And that looks super cool too. I'm going to go back into light mode just for visibility. And we're going to call this pin conference TX. So now that, in that schematic elements, we're just going to type matrix mixer. You can go through all the folders and, you know, find under audio components, mixers, matrix mixer. But it's easier just to search it. So I'm going to leave it as an 8x8 just because I don't know how many channels I'm going to have yet. One thing, since I have these wireless microphones that are going to be reinforced in the room, meaning that the wireless mic's audio is going to come out of the speakers in the room as well as go to the far end. something I'm going to do on the acoustic echo canceling block is I'm going to enable in the properties this reinforcement outputs. And I'm going to select yes. And I'm also going to change my channel count to 3. And that is because I have ceiling mic mix and my 2 wireless. So you're going to need an AEC channel for every microphone in your system in the room. And now you can see what that did when I enabled reinforcement outputs is it gave me separate outputs for my conference feed and separate outputs for the signal I'm going to be reinforcing through the speakers, which is very helpful when we are trying to keep things clean. Because if you don't do your referencing right, you're going to have all kinds of problems. You're going to have weird audio, what I like to call is garbling. It sounds like underwater. You'll get all kinds of complaints. It's just not good. Conference 1, 2, 3, reinforcement 1, 2, 3. So I'm not going to go into the AEC block yet, but what you'll want to do. Oh, another thing. Always connect your mics directly to the AEC input. Don't put any processing between the input and the AEC block. It's only going to cause you problems. We want a super clean, signal coming in here. And then since we're doing signal flow, let's throw in some processing. So let's get, typically on all my mics, I'll put a high pass filter. We'll do parametric EQ. That's what's great about the open architecture. You can just drop all this stuff in, copy, paste. Do a compressor. So we're just building the signal chain. Now I'm just going to copy and paste that whole signal chain for my wireless. 1 and 2. Now, if I had more than 2 wireless, I would consider doing an auto mixer, and we'll get into that later. But with just 2 mics, you shouldn't need that. So this is good for my conference outputs. And then for the reinforcement, we'll just copy this again. Oh, always also good to give yourself a gain block. Now, all I did was Control C, Control V for all those. I am clicking and dragging from the left over to the right here, and it selects all 3 of these nodes at once. And then I can pull all 3 over at once and connect them all. You'll start to learn all the little nuances of the user interface in here. Now, I would normally go and name all these appropriately and make sure everything is connected, and go in and dial in my compressors, and we'll show how to do that in a minute. I just want to get all the connections going here. So on my output side, let's assume we have 2 zones of ceiling speakers. Ceiling speaker, say zone 1. Ceiling speaker zone 2. And then we'll say we have some program speakers at the front of the room. So just like a left-right, like 8 ohm. And then the ceiling speakers are 70 volt. How about that? Okay, so you're going to want a little bit of output processing. As I just keep selecting all and moving things over to make more room. You can make this literally as big as you need to. And to zoom in and out like that, I was just holding control and doing the scroll wheel on the mouse. So we'll say especially for 70 volt systems, you want to make sure you have a high pass filter engaged, typically above 70 hertz or 75. Control C, Control V. We're going to do it for all, though. Here's something too. In the matrix, we're going to set up our inputs, and you can do mono or stereo inputs as well as mono or stereo outputs. So we have 1 stereo input and 1 stereo output. And then for our, let's see, we got the wireless covered. The only thing we're missing is processing for our conference. Typically, I'd probably do some kind of tags, but just for speed here. So typically one thing I see with the conference a lot is that there's, especially USB conferencing, with like Zoom or Teams or anything, there's just a lot of low end buildup. So I typically roll these off at like 140 hertz. Seems extreme, but it really does help because they're just so boomy. All right, and I think this, yeah, so our stereo output, you'll see it indicates with left, right, and our stereo input is left, right. It always puts the stereos at the bottom. So left and right, and conference transmit, something we'll need. And then we're also going to need our, I'm going to separate my references, which I like to do. Wireless ref and ceiling ref. We'll say CM for ceiling mic ref. Sorry, I had to pause there to eat some dinner. My wife brought home some delicious chicken wings. Can't pass that up. So we're gonna connect those gain blocks. All right, I'm gonna have to do like a too long didn't read version of this TLDR. All right, real quick. We're gonna add some blocks for our program audio. Now I want to make this. I want to make these blocks all stereo. So what's nice is if a block has if there's a parameter that's available in each of these different blocks, you can select them all and do it all at once. So I want to change all these blocks from mono to stereo. Bang. And we just got to go ahead and connect those lines through. And now I'm going to take my program left, program right, Control C, Control V. Cool. And then I'm going to attach those on my very last input, my stereo input. Just realizing now that I did two references. Probably gonna. Did I say shared reference? Yeah, I did say shared reference. That's why. Okay. I'm gonna say not shared reference, and this way it's gonna just give me a little more control. Shared reference will probably work most of the time for you. Again, I'm going to do an AEC video and do a little bit deeper dive and explain this better. For right now, just know that I am making a separate wireless mic reference and ceiling mic reference. So when I say no shared reference, the amount of channels I have here, 1, 2, 3 mics, it's going to give me a reference for each one. Wireless, see, that's going to be these last two. And then ceiling mic is going to be the first one. Okay, there's some ins and outs I don't need here. I don't need input 8. Let's make that a 7. So now we have 7 inputs, 7 mono and 1 stereo, and I don't need 6, 7, 8. So we're going to say 5 mono outputs. Wonderful. And let's just add some extra blocks into this signal chain. So I know we started the video with signal flow. Again, the basics are source, preamp, processing, and then driving our speakers with our amplifier. And we have gone and complicated it just for fun, just for a little bit of real world demonstration. So real quick, high pass filter. You're going to want to have a parametric equalizer. Now, I like parametrics on my output. It gives me a little more control over shaping my speaker EQs. I think it's a little more common in live to have a graphic on your output so you can find frequencies quickly and pull them out for feedback and things like that. You have a little bit more time to shape things the way you want in a permanent installation. EQ, limiter, peak limiter. Oh, also on this parametric, I'm going to give myself some room to work with. I'm going to do 7 bands. Hold shift, click all of these, change them all to 7. Peak limiter. And then I'm going to just do some gain blocks. Inside these gain blocks, in the properties is where you would set the range. This isn't something I would expose to the customer typically, like an output gain, but input gains will set different ranges. This is really just, for me, a controlled volume, like something that would be controlled by the customer, something like this, a microphone. I like +3 to -9. They really don't need, really -6. 9 dB a gain, that's should be plenty. You can go down the line and set those. Now we are just going to add these tags onto our outputs. Bang. So now we've got our ceiling speaker, zone 1, zone 2, main left, main right. And gonna need some processing for the conference transmit. I'm just gonna, copy the same for right now. Call this conference TX out. Now, typically, I would clean this up, do color coding. I would probably separate things out a little more, but this is just to give you a very basic idea of how things need to flow. And we're going to hop into the matrix, name our inputs and outputs so you can see how things are going to be routed. So let's do that now. To do certain things in Q-SYS, we need to do what's called emulate mode, which is essentially mimicking us connecting to our physical hardware and going online with the hardware. So changing channel names, like if I open this matrix block, you can see I can't set any of the gains. I can't change any of the levels. I can't put any of the labels in. All of that has to be done in emulate mode or online with the processor. So to go to emulate, we can go File, Emulate, or just press F6. You're going to get this message about Dante license requirements having changed. Feel free to ignore and compile fail. Signal ended. Channel cannot be connected to single-ended channel. I made some kind of mistake. Let's see. Maybe this amp doesn't support 70 volt. Didn't really look into that. Single-ended channel. I don't know. Let's see. Add 2 more generic speakers. I don't think this is it. I'm missing something here. It's part of the game. Troubleshooting, figuring out what the hell you did wrong. F6 now. Single-ended channel cannot be connected to 70 volt, 100 volt speaker amplifier 1. All right, stand by. I gotta see what's going on here. Okay, had to do a little research. Figured out what it was though. So this amplifier, although it does support, sometimes you got to go grab the spec sheet. I found down here. At first, I saw this and was like, "Oh, it only does 8 ohm," but no, under, I guess this is bridge power. You can do 70 volt up to 120 watts. So I saw down here, where did it say that? Yeah, high Z. So when we're talking, high Z or high impedance, they're talking about 70 volt systems, and it says software setting. So what we had to do is click on our amplifier, inside the properties, change this channel configuration to 3-channel with A and B bridged. So I'm pretty sure for power reasons, you have to bridge channels A and B if you're going to use the 70 volt mode. So we only get one ceiling speaker, which is fine for this demonstration. One zone, I should say, of ceiling speakers. And we're just going to remove our last mono output. Mono 4. Cool. And now, hopefully that will compile. So I'm going to hit F6 to emulate. And there we go. Over here, what are we missing? Okay, these are the speakers we didn't wind up using. If anything's missing online or not in your inventory, it'll show over here if there's any bad statuses or anything like that. So now that the file is live in emulate mode, we can go in and start messing with gains, change mute settings, acting as if it is a live console. So what I'm going to do in here, and first thing to note about the Q-SYS matrix that I find a little strange at first is that your inputs come in on the bottom. I guess they want to make it kind of feel like a mixing console, so I get it. Yeah, like, how on a mixing console your trim knob would be up top here, and then your post trim or head amp gain, and then outputs are going to flow kind of from left to right out here. So the way you can also set up this matrix as strictly mutes. You can set it up as cross points with volume. So this is just cross points with volume. We're going to go ahead and I'm just going to label my outputs first. So we have our ceiling speakers, then we have our conference transmit, wireless ref, Oh, I am doing the inputs. I already got messed up. Let's try that again. It's like something doesn't look right. Ceiling speakers, conference transmit, wireless reference, ceiling mic reference, and our main left right. Then for inputs, we've got our ceiling microphone, wireless 1, wireless 2, we've got ceiling mic, wireless 1, wireless 2. Oh, yeah, so wireless mic 1 and 2, this is me, wireless 1 to conference, wireless 2 to conference, wireless 1 to room, wireless 2 to room, ceiling mic, wireless 1 to conference, wireless 2 to conference, room, room. Oh, duh. Okay, one of these reinforcements I didn't actually need. So let's go offline. Disconnect. Yeah, so because I'm not reinforcing my ceiling mic mix, I don't actually need this. We are not reinforcing the ceiling mic. We're going to delete that. We're going to move. I don't like any blank spaces in my matrix, so I am going to adjust the parameters to make it a 6-channel. All right, go back online, open this up. It is conference receive, and then 7 is our program. Cool. So, conference routing. Our ceiling microphone, we want to go to our, not to our conference, or not to our ceiling speakers. We only want that to go to the conference transmit. And because it's not reinforced in the room, we don't need it to go to either reference or the main left-right speakers. Wireless 1 to conference is just going to go to conference. Wireless 2 to conference. Wireless 1 to room. I typically only like my wireless coming out of the ceiling speakers and then program audio to come out of my main left-right. So we're going to send wireless 1 to ceiling speakers. This is our dedicated room. What we never want to do is send a microphone to its own reference. You can try as a start to send it to the ceiling mic reference, but this could have negative consequences, and we'll go more in depth in the AEC tutorial on why that might be. You're welcome to try it to try and help, because if you're talking on a wireless microphone, that audio is coming out of the speakers and then therefore could go back into your microphone, causing a little bit of room tone. It's not super noticeable typically. So a lot of times I'll leave it off and not reference out my reinforced microphones. I'll always give it a try because I would love it. And then we have some ducking techniques and things like that we can look at for a little bit cleaner of a signal. I'm not going to have it come out of the main left right. So we're going to do the same for that. And now the conference receive, which is going to be the person on the far end of the call, we want them coming out of the ceiling speakers. We don't want to send it down the transmit because we don't want the person to hear themselves back. That's just going to cause a loop and an echo. We definitely want to send that to the wireless reference and the ceiling mic reference. Either of these microphones are live. We want it to hear the person's voice and cancel it out. You can some clients like to have the conference come out of the main left-right speakers. I'm not going to do it right now, and then our program audio is going to come out of our main left-right. We'll lift it a little bit in the ceiling speakers. So we'll say like -12, and then we'll send it also down the conference so that people on the far end can hear it. In a more complex setup, typically I'll split my program audio off to do an in-room and a conference audio feed, so that when you're adjusting the in-room volume, it's not also adjusting it on the far end. Kind of depends on preference there. And we definitely want our program audio to go to the reference, because that is audio that's coming out of our speakers that we want to be canceled out going to the far end. So we want to send the direct signal and not be hearing echoes of program audio. So that is our basic routing inside a Matrix. And if I was doing this, on a project, I would be cleaning all this stuff up. We would be going to each of these blocks, adjusting, our high pass filters accordingly. We would be tuning if we were on site, setting our default thresholds. There's an important reason why this is at -20, because we're in DBFS, but okay. I think that's going to do it for the signal flow video. Just for the too long didn't read, we've got our input blocks here. That's where we're going to set our preamp gain for, any microphones, program audio, preamp. Go into our processing blocks. Got our little mixer. Sending audio signals out to our conference transmit and our amplifier. So we've done a very this is a basic conference room. They get way more complex. You get, control system components. We've got cameras. We've got bridgings. It's just, it can get so complex. And those are the fun ones. We get into divisible spaces with walls opening and closing, where we have to, do snapshot presets to change routing on the fly depending on the combination of the room. And you got to account for a ton of variables That's a little bit more advanced. I really just wanted to cover like the basic signal flow, get an introduction to Q-SYS again, create an email on their site, download the software, play around. Let me know what questions you have. If there's any particular things you want me to do deep dive on, as far as any of the audio components, be happy to do that. Again, I will probably be doing a deeper dive on AEC by itself, a deeper dive into some of the Dante concepts here. Probably do a biamp video with these same principles. We'll do a Shure video. So let me know what you guys want to see next. Really appreciate it. If you got any value, leave a like and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.